Ever wondered how the United States government actually works? It can seem like this incredibly complex machine, right? Well, today we're going to pop the hood and look at the original blueprint. We'll break down how it was designed, how it's supposed to run, and most importantly, why it matters to you. Let's dive in. So, picture this. You've just won a revolution. The war is over. Now what? You've got 13 very different, very independent states, each with its own agenda. This was the huge challenge facing America's founders. How on earth do you get them all to agree and form a single, functioning government? Because, their first shot at it, it was a complete disaster. The Articles of Confederation, as it was called, just wasn't working. The country wasn't just struggling, it was literally on the brink of falling apart. And you can see why right here. The reality was a mess. The central government was so weak, it couldn't even raise money. States were fighting with each other over trade, but the dream, the goal, was so ambitious, a united nation founded on justice and peace. It was obvious they needed a totally new plan.
And that new plan was the Constitution. Think of it as the master blueprint for the entire nation, a really revolutionary design for a government that could be strong, but at the same time protect people's freedom. The whole blueprint kicks off with maybe the three most powerful words in American history: we the people. Now, this wasn't just some fancy poetic intro. It was a radical idea. It meant the government's power doesn't come from a king. It comes directly from its citizens, from us.
So this document, hashed out in Philadelphia back in 1787 and made official in 1789, is still the supreme law of the land today. In fact, believe it or not, it's the oldest written constitution that's still in continuous use anywhere in the world. So how did the founders create the stronger government without it turning into a tyranny? Well, they were smart. They built in 4 brilliant safety features, 4 core principles that we're about to see in action. That first principle, the separation of powers, basically created the government's engine by splitting all its responsibilities into 3 distinct and equal parts or branches. And when you break it down, it's a pretty clear design. You've got the legislative branch, that's Congress. Their job is to make the laws. Then there's the executive branch, led by the president, and they enforce the laws. And finally, the judicial branch, with a Supreme Court on top, they interpret the laws. Make, enforce, interpret. It's a simple but powerful way to spread out the power. And if we zoom in on that legislative branch, you'll see even Congress itself is split in 2. You have the House of Representatives, with its 435 members based on how many people live in each state. And then you have the much smaller Senate, with exactly 100 members, 2 for every single state, no matter how big or small. Over in the executive branch, the show is run by the president and the vice president. They work with a cabinet, which is made up of 15 different departments, to actually carry out the laws. And meanwhile, in Congress, you have key leaders like the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader who are steering the whole lawmaking process. And that brings us to the third branch, the judiciary. Right at the very top sits the Supreme Court, which is made up of 9 justices. And here's the key thing. They're appointed for life. That was designed to keep them out of the day-to-day political drama, so they can just focus on interpreting the law impartially. Okay, so we have these 3 powerful branches. But what's to stop one of them from getting too big for its britches and trying to take over? Well, that's where the next big principle comes in: checks and balances. It's a whole system of built-in safeguards. The way a law gets made is the perfect example. So Congress can pass a bill, but it's not a law yet. It has to go to the president, who can sign it, or they can reject it, which is called a veto. But even then, Congress gets another say. If they can get a 2/3 vote in both the House and the Senate, they can override that veto. See? Each branch has a check on the others. Another really important safeguard is federalism. It's basically the division of power between the big national government and the individual state governments. So the federal government handles the huge picture stuff, like printing money or declaring war. And the states, they manage things closer to home, like running schools, local police, or issuing your driver's license. It's a constant balancing act. All right, so this all sounds kind of abstract, right? A blueprint, branches, checks. But how does the system actually show up in your life? Well, this whole complex setup has a very real impact on you every single day, and we can see it through its 2 main missions. mission number one is all about creating a safe and just society for everybody. So the government runs the courts to establish justice. It uses agencies like the FBI to ensure peace and order, and its whole job is to protect your basic freedoms, the ones laid out in the Bill of Rights. Then there's the second mission, providing all those essential public services. We're talking about everything from the roads and bridges you drive on to big social programs like Medicare and Social Security, all the way to agencies that protect our health and our environment. And this is the really crucial part. Understanding this whole blueprint, it's not just for a history test. It's actually essential if you want to be an effective citizen. It really all boils down to this one idea: civic literacy. And that's just a way of saying you have the knowledge to understand how the system works and the skills to make your voice heard inside of it, whether that's by voting, getting involved in your community, or just staying informed. And the benefits of having that literacy are huge. It makes you a better critical thinker, it encourages you to participate, it gives you a better perspective on the world, and it can even open up all kinds of career opportunities. But at the end of the day, it comes down to a simple, powerful truth. You can't really change or improve a system that you don't understand. Knowing the blueprint is step one. That's where real empowerment begins. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. This amazing blueprint was designed way back in 1787, and it's lasted over 2 centuries. But as our world changes, what does this design need to power the America of tomorrow? That's a question for all of us to consider.